Good day.
Good day.
How are things on your side of the table?
Pretty good. Drew my back out a couple weeks ago and it's still not great.
Yeah,
Still not great.
a lot of hobble walks with you.
Yep. I worked out today, so I feel good on a holiday weekend, which I don't always do.
It's good. I didn't because the gym didn't open until like 8 or 9 today, so I didn't go.
I'll probably be super busy.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I'm like, meh, I'll just
But
work
you
out.
can still do something.
I know. I went for a walk today. I'll work out this weekend from home. It'll be fine.
Nice.
I just don't need to go with the 8 a.m. crowd. Those are not my people.
I went to the gym, went to go to the gym yesterday, but we had a huge snowstorm, which is mind-boggling because we're deep into spring now. But welcome to Canada, I guess. But she turned around, came home.
Yeah,
But she was good and went for a run on the treadmill.
sure did. She's getting a fair amount of use out of that treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine though because winter's going to be over because I'm getting my winter tires taken off on Wednesday, so it'll be fine after that. There'll be no issues.
I always say May long, man. May long, expect snow until May long weekend.
Which is fine, but it's sporadic. This is a lot. This is inches and inches and inches every 4 or 5 days. Not cool.
Yeah, I suppose.
Not cool. And the walk is treacherous now.
It's beautiful though. It's beautiful. Beautiful morning this morning.
Beautiful morning when we weren't trying not to fall right on our keisters.
And warm.
Yeah, it was very warm. It's actually very, very warm out right now. So most of this will melt, which will mean it'll freeze in time for us to take the dogs out tomorrow morning, which is always a good time.
Yeah.
Always a good time with our horse of a dog pulling us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how something so cute can be so annoying on a walk.
I know.
But it is. That's what she is.
And I was noticing because she's a Bernese mountain dog, in case people are wondering. So apparently they're bred to pull. But I was watching her because she'll get down low.
Oh, crazy low.
But her paws, she spreads her paws out as well.
Yeah.
And so she's
he
like
is ripping in.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. She'll pull me and Sunny if we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Like she'll yank us both.
She's a tiny little dog.
Tiny brained dog. That's what she is. She's bigger than Pepper.
Yeah.
And she's so tall when she stands up. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, she's probably what, like 4.5 feet?
Oh, easy. Easy, yeah.
And 100 and what? 100.
Well, last time I weighed her, she was like 53 kg. So she's a big dummy is what she is.
Yeah.
But man, she's hilarious. Her new favorite thing since it snowed is she goes out and she just literally walks around the fire pit grate and just eats all the snow on top.
Yeah, it's like her own little snow cone.
She loves it. And if the other dogs come out, she gets all protective of it. It's like, dude, the whole place is covered in snow. What are you doing?
I noticed that this morning. That was hilarious.
Yeah, she went in. She was tired last night, so I let them all out. And she went outside, tired, and leaned so her head was up against the fire pit and she just licked the snow she could reach with her tongue. I'm like, dude, just go to bed. What are you doing? Anyways, that's what we live with. She would be our problem child if we had to describe it. Which is a clever segue into today's topic. Do you like how I did that?
Oh, nice.
Fantastic transition.
Good transition.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate you picking up on that. So we talk about challenges with kids. We talk about challenges with other kids, how to address stuff. We've recently gone through some challenges with other kids again, right? But it got me to thinking about, from the other parent's perspective, of what do you do when your kid is the problem? What do you do? So we always try and take the approach of, what has our kid done? How do we help them? How do we help them work through it? Do we call out, what to do? But part of me got thinking about this is what we recently gone through. But there was a video posted of a dad who was brought in to talk to the teachers. And the teachers were like, hey, here's the issue. Your kid is the bully in this situation. And they were very calm about it, but they're like, look, it's not an isolated incident. It's becoming more regular. Daily, she is doing these behaviors. And it used to be we could correct it and she would stop, but then we'd see it come back. Now she's not stopping. She's not correcting. She's not listening. And so to this dad's credit, he very calmly said, Kate, I want all the details you can provide me. And went all the way through it, listened. acknowledged it. Like it was the best example I've seen of a parent taking accountability, saying, "Thank you know, I'll go deal with this," and did. The rest of the video was him talking to his daughter. I think the part I didn't agree with was he and his mother, so the kid's grandmother, ended up taking her to the police station to scare her, sort of thing. Which that part I didn't really like.
Yeah.
But up until then, I did like the fact that he was like, "Yeah, okay, this is absolutely not what we're cool with. We're going to deal with it." But what got me thinking is that's a rarity. We don't see a lot of parents that do that. Let me deal with this. My kid is this.
Yeah.
Maybe they do it behind closed doors, but that doesn't seem to be commonplace. So that's where this topic came from, is like, as a parent, when do you have to be honest about your kid is the problem and how are you going to deal with it? Because right now, accountability is probably at its all-time lowest and everybody's kid is never the issue.
And I think that's how it's brought up because we have recently where parents have approached other parents about their
Hmm.
kids.
I was absolutely part of
And
this.
like
Yeah.
the one, like what the
So
mom just essentially laughed and like
well, it
was
became
like, whatever.
defensive. Yeah, it
Yeah.
became really defensive. So there was an issue amongst a group of parents where two of the kids have been misbehaving, and it involved, alcohol. That's the age that they're at. So the parent whose house they were doing it at
Oh, I forgot that.
got
Yeah.
them kind of, caught them, broke it up, whatever. I don't quite understand the process after that, but there at some point that incident came back to the other parent, the other kid's parent, and it wasn't handled well. It was met with accusations, it was insults, it was your kid is the problem, it was all of these things, right? So absolute zero accountability. And in this case, this parent has a demonstrated history of that. Whatever, we won't get into it. But that's exactly where my head was at. Was like, okay, one of the parents tried to go have a conversation about it and was met with the other parent basically saying, "It's not my kid, it's your kid, get out of here. What are you talking about?" And it's created a much bigger issue than what there needed to be. But how can parents, I guess it's kind of a weird question because there, there needs to be an amount of awareness or ownership from parents to be willing to look at your kid as anything other than perfect. So how do you do that?
Well, and I think there's a couple of things I just want to say because I do think parents, well, maybe not. I was going to say are a little bit aware of what their kids, but I was a brat and my parents had no clue. And they're like, no, not Caroline. Like a dad was a military police officer, put his uniform on and came to my house in junior high. And my dad was like, get out of here. Like, you cannot do that. Come
Yeah.
and I mean, that's the wrong approach. Come and intimidate me and intimidate my kid. But they were like, she would never, right? So I do think there's those parents. We have friends. I've heard them say, this is why you have no
Yeah,
friends,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So like there is also those parents, but I know that if someone came fighting them, they would defend their kid.
Sure. So when does that line need to be crossed though? Like
Yeah,
you need to stand up for your kid,
absolutely.
but
Our kids need to feel like we're on their side.
100%.
It's about how it's brought to, right? Like if someone's coming to me saying your kid ba 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 ba, I'm going to be defensive right back,
Right. Right.
right? So it's how it's handled in the first place.
I think there's two parts to that though, because I agree with you. If someone came out to me and said your kid sucks, real good chance that conversation is not going to end the way that person thought it was going to.
Right.
Right. But how do you handle it in a way that doesn't give your kid the lesson that it's okay for them to be? Because there is defending your kid,
Mm-hmm.
but there is also making sure that your kid understands that there is an accountability piece to that. And you taking their side may not look the way they expect it to, in my mind. Like, yeah, if the person is being confrontational and yelling and pointing and whatever, that's the part I'm going to take issue with, which
Yeah.
is like, no, 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 no. Like, we're not dealing with it like this. What happened? I'll go deal with it, but you don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is the important distinction of, to your point, if someone came in, they can be upset, but it's not about insulting my kid. It's not about making it personal. It's not about all these things. It's about tell me what I can do or what you feel I need to do. We'll have a conversation. I'll go off and deal with that. But that skill almost seems to be non-existent. Parents go, no matter how it's broached to them, immediately to a maximum amount of defensiveness, and this guy's an idiot and get out of here and sort of so how do you balance that and demonstrate to your kid the right way to do it?
Yeah. So I guess, Andy, are you wondering about how parents are aware of their kids in the first place and willing to take accountability, or how do we address it with kids?
Yes.
Both.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Let's get into it. Let's start with the awareness. The original question was more around
Yeah.
that, the awareness piece of how do you know if what do you do to know if your kid's the bully or whatever or the problem, and then what do you do about it?
Yeah. I mean, there's always, I find that the truth is somewhere in the middle,
Sure.
right? Because we have our perspective, they have their perspective, somewhere in between. So something has happened, right? Even if it's just the other kid was super sensitive and our kid like rolled their eyes or something, right?
Yeah,
Like sometimes it gets blown way out of
totally.
proportion. But regardless, something is disrupting our child's success in that environment. And I think that's what we need to come back to, right? Something is getting in the way of their success, right? In how others are perceiving them, in their interactions with others, or whatever that
Right.
is. So if we come back, to our children and what's in their best interest, because that's really important. Sometimes we get so caught up in, oh my gosh, what other people are thinking, or what our kids should look like, that we're now actually harming our kids in
Yep.
terms of we're putting them down and we're putting their needs second, and like we're just going to create a bigger rift in I think I've shared this example before. I think it was Dr. Neufeld. I can't remember, but it was a like a world-renowned child psychologist who had a little kid like 5 or 6 years old at a birthday party. I guess it's been a while since I've shared this, but birthday party, she got all these toys, and all of the girls wanted to see this one toy,
Right.
right? And so all the kids were running, and she's like, no, 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 it's mine, and running. And all the parents, like they're young enough that all the parents are at this party and they're watching. Okay, big shot psychologist, how are you going to handle this? And his girl was in the corner and all the kids were around him. And he was like, no, we got to share, right? Like trying to use that language. And then he realized, like, whose needs am I addressing right
Hmm.
now? I am worried because all these other parents, I'm worried about their perspective of me. And he's like, looked at his kid and saw her bawling, and he's thinking, she hasn't even taken it out of the box. It's her present. She's
Yep.
excited. She hasn't even had a chance to play with it yet. And so he realized, hold on here. Okay, kids, let her have a turn first.
Yep.
It is her toy. She hasn't even had a chance, right? I'm gonna get emotional. So I always we got like our kids need to feel like we're on their side, and we have to understand their needs, but we do need to be open to whatever feedback is, because that's going to be good feedback about how to help our kids be successful
Hmm.
at school. Now, sometimes there are those bullies who do have very high self-esteem,
100%.
who are the leader of the pack, who are like the Biff,
Yep.
right, of
Biff
Back
Tannen.
to the Future. There are those kids. Most of the time, they're not, though. Most of the time, they're not. But if there are those kids, okay, well, maybe that's a different conversation. But for a lot of these kids, we need to just acknowledge. We want to not get into a fight with whoever's bringing us that information. I mean,
No,
that's just not going to be helpful at all.
totally.
So take what you think is going to be valuable to help you help your child. Like that's kind of how I would address that. So that's part one. I don't know if you have anything else to add. Is that along the lines of what
Yeah,
you're thinking?
well, yeah, I mean, there is no along the lines. I think that's good advice. I think one of the things as a part of that probably parents need to understand, because inevitably you're going to be in that situation.
Mhm.
Inevitably, there's going to be a conflict. There's going to be something. And I think there's an important piece of that needs to be specified. And we've talked about it before, but it's what are your non-negotiables,
Yeah.
right? What are the things that you need to make sure that you're teaching your kid? And how does this situation apply to that, right? Because to the story you just told with Dr. Neufeld, he was reacting to the situation, right? And it wasn't until he took a second to say, kind of do a self check-in that he was able to modify his response to it. But at the end of the day, if someone came to me and was like, your kid did XYZ, and I said, okay, well, what happened? And you heard more of the story, and it was, and this is just an example, but my kid's behavior was in response to something their child was doing, I can then do a self-assessment of, okay, how does that line up with the lessons I've already taught them, right? In terms of, you know, an example is they were standing up for a friend. Okay, my issue isn't that piece of it. My issue is potentially how they handled it. How do I, right, like separate the information or the situation from the lessons or the morality or the values you're already trying to instill, because that should allow you to not necessarily react, if that makes sense. I think that's a piece of it maybe that needs to be defined a little bit. What are your non-negotiables,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think it could be helpful just for you in terms of thank you for sharing this
Yeah.
information. Oh, and understanding the outcome. What is it that you hope that
Yeah.
I do? Because I know that there's been times where teachers have emailed me about Willow and it's like, okay, great, cool.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. So what are you going to do in the classroom
Yeah.
to help support? Like it's usually around work or she's reading all the time and like in math or whatever. Okay, cool. Like I have no control about what she does in class
Yeah.
there. She's got to be accountable to other people as
Yeah.
well.
So are you asking us to tell her not to read? Or are you asking us to work with like,
Yeah.
and that's a very
What's
valid point of
best?
what are you asking,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're just coming to complain, cool, awesome, noted, have a great day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a valid point for sure.
And then when we bring it up with kids, it again, we're not coming blamey or like, because they're just going to get defensive and they're not going to take up the conversation, right? Usually I'm just like, hey, had a conversation with so and so. See what they say. And it's awesome. I've done that with like, hey, anything I need to know about school today. And
Oh yeah, it
and
opens the floodgates.
it's awesome because I was just joking, like never got an email. And wow, the stuff that comes out. Are you serious? I can't believe they emailed
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. What's your side of the story? And boy, do you ever hear it. I do enjoy that show. That's a favorite of mine.
Oh, it's so good. Actually, oh, that was something I was going to say. April Fools. I mean, it's come and gone again, but this is the first year I have not done something. But the girls were like
Oh, they're on high alert.
on high alert that I've done something. That's
I'm
probably
pretty
the
sure that
best.
Maya has not driven her car since April 1st because she's scared you've messed with it. She hasn't touched her car other than to try and go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very powerful. But, like, anyway, yeah. So just opening that up and see where they go. Well, and if they truly are like, I have no idea
Yeah.
who talked to. Well, I talked to so and so's mom. Okay, so tell me, why do you think, like I ask open-ended questions. Why do you think that? And they might say, I don't know why. Tell me, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're just concerned about the interactions that, you're having. So I would really like to know your side of the story here,
Yeah.
right? So it's really inviting our kids to share their story and validating. We're not trying to, that this first time, we're not trying to problem solve. We're not trying to fix. We're not lecturing,
Yep.
right? It's understanding their story. And so again, validating. Well, yeah, I was standing up for my friend or she was whatever, right? Okay, I can see your
Yeah.
perspective essentially is what we want to be able to do. So that's really important. If there's problem solving, I mean that it might have to be more than one conversation,
Totally.
right? They need to feel heard and understood. But you can ask, is this something we should talk more about to try to figure out now, or should we talk about it, maybe tomorrow, part two? And then, just brainstorm. So I don't know, like, should we have a specific
No, I think it's
example to walk through? I think that might be helpful,
sure if you want.
maybe.
So parent comes up and basically is angry that an altercation happened between the kids, right? And their side of the story is that it was our kid that instigated, started everything, was mean, shows a pattern. So our kid's not there. Let's assume the conversation, while emotional, wasn't anything beyond that. Parent was upset, mentioned it. They want us to address it. We go back to our kid and try and broach the topic. The real question for me is, as part of this process, what happens if you validate that the other parent was right? How do you deal with that? Because there's two ways, right? There's the problem solving aspect of, okay, how do we deal with this in the future? But there's also the aspect of how do you deal with the behavior if it's valid and they aren't
Yeah,
behaving the way you want, right?
yeah. No, the process is still the same,
Yeah.
right? We're validating their perspective. But then when we get to that, how are we going to figure this out? That's when I pull out values and what's important to them. Like, how do you want to be thought of? How do you want other kids to be thought of or to think of you, right? What's more important? And I know I've talked with the girls about this, like being right, because
Mhm.
that's a big one that they'll
Oh,
be, right? Like they'll die on being right. And I think I will too.
you sure will.
So maybe I'm modeling that. But what's more important, being right or maintaining that friendship,
Hmm.
right? Or maybe it's they don't even care about that person, but it's being able to, like, what kind of person do you want to be? How do you want other kids to see you,
And
right?
what are the outcome you're hoping for? Like using that being right example, if it's a person that you don't like, what's the point? Like what are you winning by being right over someone who you don't have a relationship with or don't value the relationship with? Just move on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely that check-in back to their value stance.
Yeah. Now, and so it's really being able to talk about that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're going back out into recess or lunch or bus rides or whatever. And so, the best thing we can do is right before is just like being intentional. Okay, you're going to go on the bus. What
Hmm.
kind of kid do you want to be? What did we talk about, right? How can everybody have a smooth bus
Yeah,
ride? All of those things. I think a lot of kids that get into trouble are neurodivergent kids, like our ADHD kids.
right.
And even just, a couple of days ago, one of my supervisees was talking about, kiddo is completely impulsive and he just gets too aggressive, like with his friends. It's not even him being mean. He just gets aggressive and he gets excited, right?
Right.
It's like cuteness,
Yeah.
aggression. And so it's tricky because they're not thinking about, oh, I could make my friend mad, right? They're not
Yeah.
thinking about those moments. And so they are very impulsive and they keep getting in trouble. They're repeat offenders and they don't mean to be. I think those are really hard and we see it, but it's being able to, how do we support them to be successful? And so sometimes, like for them, I was just saying, let's minimize the opportunity. Like we need to create a break in the pattern because it's always, I asked, I bet it's always at recess and lunch. And they're like, yes, it's always recess and lunch. So we need to make sure there's more support in those situations so that there's no opportunity for him to get overly silly and overly
Right.
aggressive in the
Right.
first place. So maybe there's an adult who's coming and like hanging out and playing games. I mean, these are younger kids, obviously, but I think if we tie it back, now natural consequences for those kids don't always work. Like a natural consequence is being, I don't want to play with you anymore,
Right.
right? It doesn't work necessarily because they'll forget the next time and then the next time and then the next time. And then guess what? They're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want to hang out with them at all. And so sometimes we do need to put in logical consequences. And so depending on what the behavior is, it is looking at something at home, like your behavior at school is going to dictate something at home.
Yeah. No, and I think that's good advice. And I think the more you demonstrate that over time consistently, and that I think the outcomes piece is an important thing in terms of being able to check back with them on what they're trying to do. And it was interesting because recently there was a conversation, actually, it was yesterday. I got to see some of those conversations that I've had repeatedly come back to me, which was very interesting. So
Like, what do you mean? I don't know.
with Maya, so I'll
Oh,
explain. So
okay.
Maya had a situation with her friends. It wasn't directly with her, but friends of hers are going through a bit of a tough time. And she told them something I've told her, which was basically the friendship. What happened was one friend did something to another friend. They were very close. She was hurt. She was upset. She didn't know why they would do this. And she was basically like, I wish I hadn't known, right, who did it, because now I know. And Maya's response was something I've told her. She's like, no, no, this is great. She's like, it stings right now, but now you know who that person is. So you can decide how you want to interact. You can just ignore them now. You don't have to worry about it. And you don't have to worry about whether you can trust them or not. And it's interesting because that's things that we've talked about over time, which is that check-in to your point about, do you want to be right? Or do you want to figure out a way out of the situation that gets you what you need? And that's an example of that in terms of, why are you fighting that? What are you actually trying to get out of it? Well, you don't want to be upset. You don't want to mistrust you. So just move on. It was very interesting to see in a completely separate, I wasn't involved. The accumulation of those check-ins over time, to your point about, we've talked a lot with them about, what do you want out of this? What are you trying to get? And that's how it can help them when they're adults, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to check back in.
It's the little seeds that we plant, right? It's not the direct conversation, the direct lecture. That's never where they pick things up.
Yeah.
Even I just think of, how I said, well, like Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah.
And that really, like if I was telling Maya that in a direct, and I've used the analogy so in so many different ways, and she's used it in her own life, like literally taking shots, and even with boys, right? Like the one boy that she dated for a year, she thought of that because he was walking away, and she's like, oh my gosh, like I just got to go give him my number.
Yeah.
Right. And they ended up dating for a year. So, but it's the little seeds that we plant, and the little, when we're all calm and when we're all, and sometimes, a lot of times, you and I are talking about our own life, even though we're really thinking about like a parallel situation that we see in their life, but we're talking about how we manage situations in our own life. And those are the seeds that they pick up on when we're just shooting the breeze, we're just hanging out, we're all calm. It's not the direct lectures.
And by doing that, when those flare-ups happen, you have a grounded point you can go back to as a reference point, right? Like, to your point, that direct lecture or yelling is never going to solve the problem. It's about taking in the situational information and then just seeing how you can realign to what you've talked about, right? In a way that isn't confrontational. But again, if your kid is the problem, you should be able to have a conversation with them to figure out either why or realign them to what your value set is.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Cool beans, man.
Cool beans. Thanks.
It?
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
That's it.
That's it.
Good day.